Hello, Brother Sewing and Crafting family. Brother Brand Ambassador Angela Wolf here. And today we have the fabulous Emily. And you know what she's going to be doing? Exactly what I talked about before the holidays. She's going to be making sweatpants. And if I told you the little visual about my mother, Mom, don't be offended because you're not the only one. How many of you have made pants for your kids or your husband and elastic waist and they ended up this tall and this wide? Well, not anymore. All right. Pop in, say hi. I'll see you in a second. All right, so we're going to bring Emily up here, but before we do that, we are live streaming on Brother Sewing and Crafting YouTube and Facebook pages, and I hope you're having a fabulous day. It is winter here in Michigan. In fact, that's why I'm here, because yesterday we got a foot of snow, and I'm not going to say we were stuck, voluntarily stuck. So let's bring Emily to the party. Happy New Year, Emily. It's so nice to see you.
Hi, I'm so glad to be here. Yeah, it feels like it's been a while, so I'm excited to be sewing today.
I'm very excited, and I'm really excited because we've had this conversation for a little while about measuring for kids, making kids clothes. You always make it look so easy, but I'm going to have to say the pajama pants over the holidays was not a good deal.
Well, it is interesting. You know, I usually in the summer, although I've actually been thinking this summer I'm not going to do it, but I make clothes for all the cousins on my side of the family, and it takes a lot of measurements from everyone to really make it happen because I'm not with all the kids. You know, I'm only with my kids. So it's not easy, even if it's a simple pattern to sew. Making sure it fits can be really tricky. So yeah.
Wait a minute. I thought you weren't going to do that anymore. Are you doing it again?
No, I'm saying I don't think I'm going to do it this summer. Like, I think maybe I'll make a vinyl T-shirt or something. You know? I'm going to buy the T-shirts and put vinyl on it.
Zippered bags.
Zipper bags. Yeah, everyone gets a zipper pouch. We'll take a picture.
Right. So what are you doing today? So, I mean, I didn't want to like let the cat totally out of the bag, but I did.
So yeah, I'm making a pair of sweatpants for my daughter. And I'm actually spending this week redoing a little bit, but mostly in the redoing, adding some larger sizes to my kids' unisex sweatpants pattern. So it's for either one. And of course, you know, you can size up or down for girls or boys, depending on the fit you want, but it's a loose fit sweatpants. And I haven't touched this pattern in a very long time. In fact, you know, the pictures on my website, my son is very tiny with one of his girlfriends who's also very tiny, and it's so cute to see them doing that. But my goal is by Friday that there'll be new pictures with my kids in new sweatpants. So sizing from my daughter, she usually wears like a 5 width and an 8 length. So it's small, to my son who wears like a 14, 16 now. So I'm adding some larger sizes, just tweaking a couple things because I haven't touched it in so long. And I'm working on that this week. So my kids get new sweatpants. You guys get bigger sizes. And if you're on Facebook, I did put a link to the free pattern in the comments. I didn't pop over to YouTube to do that, but so you can see this pattern, or you can always go to lifesewsavory.com and just search like kids sweatpants or sweatpants. I don't have a lot of patterns called sweatpants. So so today I'm making my daughters because they're the smallest, and it was Operation Scrap Busting. So I've also done a little bit of color blocking in the pattern to kind of use up some of these fabrics that I love. The sweatshirt fleece is so soft, but I just had a few scraps left. So I cut up, the first thing I did yesterday when I was preparing for this is it's a one-piece pattern, right? So there's no side seam, really simple, really basic. And so I cut the top, and then I had the middle, and then I had the bottom piece, and I cut it apart. And then when I cut out the fabric, I made sure that I added seam allowance at the top and the bottom of both of these pieces. And then I did piece it back together and I used my cover stitch actually. Can you see
Ooh.
there a little bit? Just to stitch it and hopefully make that a nice finished edge. So I have my 2 pieces back together here. So
you know, Emily, you just made me think of something. How many people, and you would know this because your kids are getting taller as they get older. So how many times you have a great pair of kids pants that fit perfectly, but then they're too short?
Totally.
Adding fabric like that in the
Yeah.
middle somewhere would be perfect.
Perfect. You could totally, or holes in the knees, you could slice out the middle, add a fun piece of fabric. I was actually just thinking today about leggings. My daughter has leggings that are getting like shorter and shorter, and she wears tall socks, so usually it's okay, but they're looking kind of short. And I was thinking what I should be doing is just adding long cuffs to the bottom. And that would really get us a few more months wear out of some of her leggings that otherwise are fine. They're just getting short. So
great idea.
Yeah, so this is just also a good way that you could lengthen pants or use up some scraps. So the pattern that I'm working off of has pockets that I cut into the sides. So if you are looking at the tutorial, I kind of cut a slit and then sewed the pocket and then, sewed it into the circle. So we had some side pockets. And I always think that's an interesting, for me, interesting when I'm sewing is how do I put pockets in the sides of pants that don't have side seams? So I've also cut like side seams down. I cut a little bit down the pants, put the pockets in, and then sew the top. So if anyone has any super great suggestions sometimes about putting pockets when you don't have a side seam, because these sweatpants are so great that they don't. I'm always looking at that. But today I thought I'd add some cute just outside pockets. So I totally just freehanded this little pocket shape. And I sewed this one already. I'm going to sew this one and then show you how I'm going to pin these on. But I'm simply going to just put them on the outside of the pants, and then they'll still be a cute little pocket. So lots of different options, but again, this is a way to, I'm using up some scraps here. And then the other thing is I did cut cuffs, and this is pretty stretchy sweatshirt fleece. So my goal is to stretch this across the bottom of the pant leg and then sew that up so it will add to the multicolor effect. And then the other thing you need is some elastic. So I've pre-cut this already. This pattern, the casing is simply a fold over casing. So we'll do that at the top of the pants and then thread this elastic through. So those are kind of the pieces I have here. I think I have my iron set up here to press the pocket nice and flat before we sew it on. But I think the first thing I'm going to do is head over and sew this. And what I did on the first pocket is I simply sewed this top curved edge and the bottom curved edge, and then I left the tiny little hole at the top, and I was able to turn it through. So I'm going to show you how I made the pocket, and then we'll pin them onto the pants because I want to do that before I sew it together while they're nice and flat.
Hey, Emily.
Or we have to work with pieces. Yeah.
She'll open that up. That's just one piece, right?
I actually cut it on the fold. Yes.
Yeah, that's great. So one less seam on the side. It looks like a bib, but
yeah. So depending on how big your fabric scraps are, and then I did, because I have 2 pieces, when I cut them, I tried to, match the stripes on both sides. But I simply freehanded this. So it's just, I kind of make this curve, and then this was the side that's folded, and then I did this. And I usually will estimate with my hand, although my daughter's hand is much smaller. Could I put my hand in the pocket? Is this curve big enough to fit a hand in? And then is the pouch large enough? So I wasn't really working off anything besides where does my hand fit in there. So let's go ahead. I'm going to just switch my camera over to the sewing machine, and then we will sew it up.
Everybody's saying, love the pockets. Great idea. I agree. Yeah.
Pockets are always great. I guess the one thing I should confirm is before I really work with the boys is, will they even use the pockets, or should I just leave the side seams as is and not worry about messing with it. Okay, so I'm gonna just sew these two curved edges with the serger here. It's really quick and easy, and then I find I don't have to trim the curve. I don't have to like clip the curved edges or anything like that because it's got such a nice narrow seam allowance, and I'm still able to press it nice and flat. So a simple, so sew that small edge and then flip it. And again, I'm going to leave that top opening to turn it. And I cut one of the pockets, and then I went ahead and used that, of course, as my template for the second pocket, and also tried to place it on the fabric so that the stripes hopefully are similar on both pockets. Either I try to make it similar, or sometimes I'll try to make it so they are completely not at all the same. So it looks like I, meant to do that. So, all right, so there's the pocket, and I'm just gonna go ahead and turn it through the hole here. And not all sweatshirt fleece has stretch. Some of it is, just very, very little stretch. This one actually has, I would say, a medium amount. So I'm able to squeeze that through the hole, and I'll probably, when we go back over, poke out these corners here. But so now you can see the approximate pocket shape, nice and cute. So let's pop over and iron this, and then we'll pin them on to the sweatpants.
Very cute, very cute. I'm watching it. Your sewing table looks so nice. Must be the new year. You're all organized.
Yeah, here, I'll give you a little back, but I made a little corner here, and I got some new storage over here. So I'm fancy, and
it looks great.
trying to get a few things done and organized.
Well, I have a tip for you, and for everyone watching. I told Emily this while she's switching cameras. What you should not ever do is, when I bought these new little things for organizing, by the way, I'm not even going to mention what they are, not a brother product, but they have those little plastic things that are like this big that you can never get open. And I did not use scissors like I should. Thus, the finger.
Yes.
Never use a knife except for cutting a piece of meat.
I know. Okay, so what I'm doing is, poking out the corners, just enroll the fabric pretty well, and then I'm going to press this just so that it lays flat, because I am just going to simply top stitch this on to the sweatpants. So I want it to lay pretty flat. It will just make it easier for me to sew if I'm also not fighting the fabric. And you guys know I really only, people who watch my show know I iron only if I have to. So if I'm ironing, it's definitely worth it. I'm terrible with the iron. Okay, and then on the top of this one, I just pressed under a small seam allowance just to clean up that edge, because you are going to see it. We're not really hiding it. If we were doing a sew-on waistband, you could actually put the top of this pocket in that waistband seam. But because we're doing a fold-over elastic casing, this top edge will actually just sit right at the bottom of the elastic. And so I just want a clean edge on there. So I'll just do that on this one too. Fold over, press it, and then I did clip it, because sometimes with this little bit thicker fabric, even after pressing it, it doesn't want to stay by itself. So clip it, and then I'm going to just pin this right to the front of the sweatpants, and we're going to sew those first so that we're working on a nice flat surface. So we'll get the iron and my pressing mat out of the way.
Hey, Emily, what serger do you have?
I have the 3734.
3734. Joanna, you would love that serger too. It's a great quality, not too expensive.
No, and it works fabulous. I don't usually ever have problems with it. They're usually human error. Okay, so I've laid out my two sweatpant pieces, and in the center here, I have the front of the sweatpants. So we have the larger U on the back with the higher rise, and on the front I have the lower rise with the smaller curve. So I'm putting those together because we will be sewing this curve together. I'm almost wondering if I should sew this and then open it up so I can see the pocket placement. I might pop over to the serger real quick to sew this center front seam, just so when I open up, I can make sure the pockets are centered and arranged nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I have just the front seam, and we'll go sew that, and then we'll be able to come back and pin those pockets on nicely.
Sounds good. Marcia says every time she asks her grandkids for measurements, they're always way off.
Well, there is a bit of that as well. And I do usually ask people to double check. Or I will send pictures of Rose exactly where I'm measuring her. Like if I say high waist or mid waist or low waist, I'll give them like a demonstration. This is what it means when I want this measurement. Okay, so I think just sewing this seam, now we can open this up on the fronts here. This will be right on the front of the pants, and be able to pin those pockets on and get a good look of how they're actually going to lay. So I think I'm happy with my decision to do that.
I agree, Shirley. That would be a great way to add pockets to leggings when they're already finished. I like that pocket idea. I think it's great.
Yeah, this one's cute. I don't know that the boys would love these kind of pockets, but I think it's perfect for Rose. Okay, so the other thing I'm going to do is fold over the top of the sweatpants. My elastic casing, it's 1 inch elastic. So, you know, my casing, I'll be folding over just over 1 inch. So I'm going to fold that on the top of the fabric, and that will give me a little bit of a guide as I'm laying the pockets on. Oh, I guess I want to slide it this way so you guys can see. There we go. Too many things to, I need like 6 cameras. Okay. So the other thing is you want to also visualize how your hand's going to go in the pocket. So this flat edge is actually going to be towards the side of the pants, and the rounded edge will be towards the center. So this, I think it's going to be a big looking pocket, because these aren't the largest pants. They're pretty small. But I'm just going to start playing with laying them on. And then because I did sew this together, hopefully I can try and make sure they're both laid at the same angle, even from the center seam. And I could measure, or I can just estimate. So we're going to go with the estimation. And yeah, and if they kind of go around the sides, that'll be fine, because we don't have a side seam or anything they're running into. So the next thing I will do is pin this in place. And I'm just going to top stitch this actually with a regular straight stitch on my machine, because these pants are looser. I'm not worried about this needing a stretch stitch. It's not going to get a lot of pull just in this pocket area. And I think for, you know, being secure, it will be easiest and most secure if I just sew it on with a straight stitch. You could also use a cover stitch. You could use a decorative stitch on your sewing machine, a zigzag, you know, and any of those things would work to stitch this in place. But, you know, it is a pocket, so things like the corner, you want to make sure that you really reinforce well, because I feel like sometimes those get a lot of pull depending on how aggressive hands are going into pockets. So
That looks really good. And Emily, I love your idea of having maybe a cover stitch on there because for those that maybe got one of those machines for the holidays,
Yes.
but I think I would still do what you recommend and I would stitch it first or at
Yes.
least baste stitch it to keep it in place because when you start moving that around, it can get really.
Yeah. So definitely if you basted it in place and then put it on, but how cute are those?
Oh my gosh, I love that.
So it's going to look so cute on there. And then the knees, hopefully. And then again, we have the same fabric in the cuffs. So these are going to be kind of crazy pants, but hopefully they look.
They're going to be adorable. I love them. Everybody's saying so cute.
Well, the fabric is adorable, which is why I had saved the scraps for so long, hoping that I would get a chance to make something else with those scraps. Okay, so let's see. We can get, I have to rework had my cameras exactly where I needed them with my old setup, and now I'm got to play with this. So it's definitely, I haven't done too many shows since I had my new space. So, okay. So I hopefully put my pins going the right direction so I can easily pull them out as I sew. But again, I'm going to make sure I just backstitch here on this corner. I'm sewing pretty close. Oh, Rose was sewing, so it's on like super, super slow speed. Come on. This will be here all day if we have to go this slow. I'm sewing just like probably 1/8 of an inch from the edge. So just a tiny seam allowance. I don't want the edges to flip up. So I'm, not really giving a lot of space there. And then at the corners, you'll pivot. And it was probably a good idea to put in, quite a few pins because things are laying pretty flat and it can stretch out and we don't want that to happen. So make sure that as things are laying, and then of course you are going to see this stitching. So a coordinating or contrasting thread that is one of the colors. I've got a lot of colors going on here, so I'm not so worried about matching exact because you can really go with anything that I have. And then remember, we are also going to stitch across that top to secure that down because it's not going to be hidden inside a seam. Unfortunately, it is just going to be sitting right there at the top of the pocket. But I think because it will be very close to where the waistband folds over and then the elastic will gather, that there'll be enough other things going on that it won't look too awkward.
I think these are going to look so cute with all of those scraps, everything kind of mixed up in there. I think it's going to look fantastic.
Okay, so there's
gosh.
One pocket sewed on. This is a nice size pocket. So hopefully lots of good treasures can be put in there. And then we'll do the same on the other one. And of course, then the goal is also that these aren't too far off on my placement. I did not get my ruler out, but we should be able to just swing around here.
I agree, Candace. So darn cute.
And sew these on. But you could definitely do these. So on Friday, when I sort of republish this pattern, I will be adding instructions for this type of pocket as well. Whereas the first version just had the side pocket or no pocket. But obviously the easiest, if you're an absolute beginner, is to just make these pants with no pocket. They're super cute. And then you can leave the bottom sort of straight. For wide leg sweatpants, you can add elastic casing and you can also add a cuff. So like I said, today we're going to be doing the cuff version. But as I'm sewing for my boys, they both happen to each want one of the other versions. One wants the straight legs and the other one wants elastic cuffs. So we'll get to see all of the options. So there are the cute pockets. And the skirts actually match pretty well. So I can't complain too much on that one.
Good eyeball job, Emily. Good
eyeball job. I was just talking to someone recently and they're like, do you measure when you hang stuff on the wall? And I was like, no, I just usually eyeball it. So I'm terrible and I probably drive some people absolutely bonkers on that. So, okay, the next piece is to sew the same seam that we sewed on the front, that back curved seam. And so I'm going to sew that up and I am going back to the serger. And this pattern has a 3/8 inch seam allowance built into the pattern. So you can make sure you're sewing with that as you're going along. And I love just using that seam allowance with the serger because it's so easy.
Hi, Linda. I see your comment. What is Emily's website? I just put it up down below for you. So make sure that you can see that. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So now we have the two, the front and the back sewn up. And let me grab the cuffs. So depending on what you're sewing and how you're sewing, you know, you can put on cuffs flat when the leg is still open, like I have right now, or you could put them on after you've sewn it up in a circle. I think I might put them on flat only because these, I'm going to be stretching them literally as far as this fabric can stretch to try and gather up the base of the fabric. So if you can't stretch your cuff far enough because the fabric isn't stretchy enough, you could gather it up a little bit with your sewing machine. So run a gathering stitch and just sort of, you know, gather it up a little bit. But I did a test yesterday and I do think that I'm going to be able to stretch this. So for me, stretching it when it's straight and flat is a whole lot easier than trying to do that when it's a tiny circle. So let me just see real quick here.
You know, Emily, when you did this, we did it for any of you who have not watched some of Emily's old episodes, they're fantastic. But I never used to do this at all. But then when you started showing this on little kids' clothes,
yes.
And then all of a sudden when I want to put a cuff on my wrist and it's too tiny, I love that technique now. Yeah. It's so much easier than trying to get that itsy bitsy circle in there.
Yeah, so definitely for kids' clothes, I will use this. I will say there's been a few times more recently for myself that have been like, it just does look that slightly bit nicer. I'm going to do it in the circle, but I almost always for kids' clothes do it in the flat. And especially for this one, because you can see how much I'm going to have to be pulling this. And I really can get a lot more torque if it's flat like this. So what I usually do is I will sew just a couple of stitches to make sure that I've got a nice chunk of fabric in under my foot. So now I can start to pull, and I'll usually just pull. And this one I'm really pulling to the extent the fabric can pull. So just pull that top cuff fabric as far as it can, and then do a few inches at a time and keep pulling and moving. And then I'm trying to end up where it's even here at the end. And then we have cute and easy cuffs that are sewn on and gather that fabric pretty nicely. So you can see when we do sew up the inseam, you're going to have a nice cuff there just on the bottom. And it's not going to be super tight on her little ankles, but it definitely will bring in the bottom of the pants and be a nice finish. So
very nice.
We will do the same thing on the other side. Oh, I probably should look at which side of the cuff I put on the outside, so the colors match.
Bye, Glenda. Glenda's watching you from her cruise, by the way.
Oh my goodness. I wish I was on a cruise right now.
I know. I was thinking the same thing, Glenda.
That sounds amazing. I think I'm a little bit scared to cruise at the moment if I were to get locked in my room. My room with COVID.
For 2 weeks? Yeah, I don't think, especially one of those rooms, no thanks.
But eventually, I will be back. All right, so we're gonna do the same exact thing on the other cuff. Stretching and sewing.
And you're using 4, are you using 4 threads right now or 3?
I do have all 4 threads going, yeah.
Okay.
And no real different, everything's kind of just set at the basic settings and sewing away. So there's the inside or the outside of the cuff, and then yep, you can see here is the nice serger seam, which just cleans everything up and makes that inside look so well, and which is good because I got a lot of seams going on the inside of these pants. Okay, so this is coming together so quickly. But the next thing we're going to do is sew the inseam. And I am going to put a couple of clips just because I want to make sure that this cuff is matched up nicely, right? So that's the disadvantage of sewing on the flat is you will have that seam showing, but most ready-to-wear clothes have that seam showing, so it's not a whole lot different. But then the other thing I want to do is make sure my stripes here where I've added in this fabric, I want to make sure those are lined up so that that inseam looks nice. So I'm going to put a clip on each of those spots. And then the last thing I'm going to line up is the center crotch seam there. And then we'll do the same thing down the other leg. I guess I'm out of clips over here. So we'll go to pins. And this will just give me a few basic points to work off of as I'm going around and making sure that these places are lined up. And if I need to make adjustments, I'm going to make the adjustment here before I get too far off as I'm going around. So we will start here at the cuff. So up the inside of one leg and then down the inside of the other leg, and then have the inside finish. So sewing over the cuff is a little bit thick, right? I have 4 layers of fabric because they have that folded over cuff. But if I go slow, this machine can totally handle it. Of course, I say that, and then I'll break a needle on the next next time through.
She's using the 4 thread. I see a couple of other people popped in and said 3 or 4 thread. She's using 4 thread overlock, which is a little bit stronger than the 3 thread. And for the legs, I would think that that would just work together a little bit better. You could use either, but 4 thread's a little stronger.
Yeah, I almost always use 3 thread unless I'm doing a rolled hem or finer fabric. And you've seen I mostly sew kids' clothes or comfy clothes for myself, so I'm not doing a lot of fine fabrics. It is mostly really comfortable fabrics that are medium, medium weight. So I almost always leave all 4 threads on, but if I am doing like a rolled hem or something like that, then definitely I'll pull that off. Okay, so we're down to the other cuff and trying to get the bottom edges of the cuff to line up as nicely as possible. So what we do have now is this serger tail hanging out here. And so this is where I like to grab my trusty old darning needle, and I will just pull. You can also flip it over and stitch it on your sewing machine, and then stitch this loose thread down. But I like to just pull the tail back through the stitches and then clip the ends. And then that gives a really nice, easy finish there. Oh, my stripes are not quite matched there. But the tails, I have never really had any problems with it coming out and then unraveling. So just have that finish there. And I'll do the same thing quickly on the other cuff.
Emily.
What?
Hi, Mom. Mom's in here, and she says that she sewed her pocket to the inside accidentally, so that I have secret pockets.
Secret pockets. I made a fleece for one of my boys, and I was working off a pattern. It wasn't even like I was making it up. But I somehow misread the pattern, and I put the pockets in the liner instead of the pockets in the outer layer of the fleece. So they were like inside pockets, you know.
See, Mom, even Emily did something like that.
I've done that. Yes. One kid had pockets on the outside and one kid had pockets on the inside over there.
Oh my gosh, is that cute?
Okay, so this.
Oh my gosh, Rose is gonna love this. So cute.
Okay, so we are so close to being finished here. Just continuing to clip threads. So what I need to do now is fold over the waistband, and you can definitely see how the top is taller, and it should be. This should not be flat because we have to accommodate the backside. So we're going to go ahead, and I have that 1-inch elastic, like I said. So sometimes I will, you can use the elastic as your guide as you're folding over, or you can also use measuring tape, but you want to make sure that your casing is going to be large enough for your elastic to slide through pretty easily. So with 1-inch elastic, I would say, 1 1/4 inches probably is your minimum, to 1.5 would probably be a little bit loose. And I don't like my casing super loose because then the elastic can slide around. So, you have your fine line of how much to fold over. But what I am going to do, because I just like the way that it looks, is after the elastic is threaded through, I'm going to top stitch once around in the center to stitch the elastic down, and then it will also hold it in place. And then I also think it makes the waistband look a little more finished. And most of the clothes that you would buy, it's not just like a loose elastic casing with elastic floating in there. It's usually stitched around a couple times, often even, to keep that elastic in place. So I like the look of that. So we actually, I guess I got to switch over here. Can't use the serger.
Pamela was asking, is that another serger next to your other serger? Is that your double cover stitch over there?
That's the cover stitch over there. Yep. So I have that one there. And okay, so we need to leave an opening to thread the elastic. So I am going to start sewing on the back of these pants, and then when I come back around, I'm going to make sure that I leave a nice opening there for the elastic. And again, you can use a straight stitch, you can use a zigzag stitch. This is going to be stretched by the elastic and not by the stretch of the fabric. It's not leggings. So I think a straight stitch, I'm going to go with it, will be just fine, because this fabric isn't actually going to need to be stretched to put on. It will simply be the elastic that will be stretched to pull on. So we're going to go with a straight stitch. You could use your cover stitch right along here, and then I would probably sew on the right side of the fabric, unless you wanted that looper look on the outside. And you could use your cover stitch to sew along here, and then that would also sort of give your raw edge of fabric a finished look. Or you could do that with a zigzag. Lots of options for sewing around, but because it isn't really going to get a lot of stretch, you don't have to worry too much about this seam actually having stretch. And my fold over is wide enough. You can see I'm just leaving my clips in here because I'm actually able to just go right by them because they're on the top of the fabric. So sometimes that's really easy and convenient too, to be able to just leave that in there, and then I can just pop those off after. And the front of the pockets are pretty good. I would say this one is maybe not quite as square up at the top as I would like, but again, we're going to thread some elastic in here and gather up the top and I think it will be just fine.
Yeah. When that's scrunched up with a little bit of elastic, you'll never notice.
Yeah.
Never.
Okay, so I need a new elastic threader. I think the teeth are wearing out. So sometimes I get, 3/4 of the way around and then I lose my elastic. But what I've been able to do better is if I fold over the edge of the elastic, it is fatter. And so it sticks a little bit better. So I'm getting a little bit more life out of it. But I just need to get a new one. Not really any excuse here. And then also this elastic tail, you have to make sure that you don't pull it through. So what I like to do is with the side flat, right? So not twisting it, I just like to pin it at the back where I started so that I know even if I give it a hard pull that it's not going to be sucked inside, because just like that, I just pulled it, but now that's right there because of the pin and it's going the direction I need to sew it. So usually that helps me prevent any mistakes because I definitely have done that before where I pull it too much, too far. And I gave myself, I don't know where my scissors are, some extra on here. So that pinking shears are not really gonna work here. Too many scissors.
Emily, I'm just going to have to share my outside wildlife. Really interested in your show. I have 3 turkeys staring at me in the window. And
that is hilarious.
And they're tapping on the window. Oh my gosh, I think I live in a zoo.
Yeah. You have some good viewing right from your
like, we love those pants.
So bright and colorful. I've overlapped the elastic. And then I am right here. So overlap the elastic and then I've just sewn that up with a zigzag and then pull it inside.
About how far over did you put that? About an inch maybe?
Yeah, about an inch, half inch, depends on how much extra you cut. I knew that I had plenty and it's just knit elastic actually. So it is really stretchy, not very stiff. So definitely want to overlap at least a half inch, could go as much as an inch if you have the wiggle room for it. So after you've sort of evened out the gathers a little bit, they don't have to be perfect. We're going to stitch this opening closed, and then we're going to do one final step where we sew around on the elastic to tie it down, secure it down, and then also keep those gathers nice and even. So I'll just stitch this closed and then show you real quick what I mean about that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is sew right down the center of the elastic, so it will be between the top and the bottom. Sometimes when I use wide elastic, like 1.5 inches or 2 inches, I'll actually put 2 or 3 lines of stitching around, and it just adds a really nice finish. It also keeps the elastic in place. So the first thing you want to do is make sure you've really centered all those gathers. And usually the easiest way is just to pull it tight and then kind of let it go, and it will lay down where it wants to. And then I'm going to put pins in a few spots here with these even gathers, and that will just keep those gathers in place while we go around.
I didn't know there was an elastic. Were you using a bodkin?
I was.
Yeah, it's called a bodkin, guys, and it works really well, but I see some of you saying you just use a bobby pin. I do too if I can ever find one. I can never find one when I need it. Actually, I can never find either when I need them, but safety pin works good too.
Safety pin works great. I just usually don't have any big enough. I'll have like a tiny little one. You really need, like a 1 inch or bigger safety pin to get a hold on it. And I never seem to have those. So I have had this for a long time. And like I said, the teeth are not even centered anymore. It's definitely seen better days.
Emily, when's your birthday?
I know. Or Amazon. I just need to like do it as soon as
no affiliation of brother, but a good job.
Yeah, no. So I'm going to start in the very back seam, and this would also be a great place to add a tag. So if I can find mine, I'm just going to do that real quick here. So if you have tags, see what I have. I have two kinds. I have flat ones. I really need new ones. These are so old, but they send you like a bajillion when you order them. So I have these, and then I have the hanging ones. It's not wanting to focus on there, but I think I'm just going to put a little hanging one on. I think with the pockets, this is not going to be a hard pair of pants to tell the front and the back. You know, sometimes my kids are like, what's the front? What's the back? Because I don't always put a tag on it. But this has got big pockets right in the front. So if they can't tell that, we have bigger problems. I'm going to lengthen my stitch to 3 from the 2.5 I was sewing with, just a little bit wider stitch. And then what I need to do here is stretch between where the needle is and where my pin is to make sure that this fabric is flat as I sew on it, because I don't want any puckers in the fabric. We want the puckers and the gathers to be created by the elastic and not by the stitches. So that's why I put those pins in there, because then I know these are even, pretty even gathers, and that the elastic can stretch between each of these marks. So I'm using both my hands. You can see I'm pulling from the back and the front to make sure that it really stays flat, and going between each of the pin markers around. And then I'm just eyeballing again, sewing down the center of the elastic to really keep it in place. And this just adds a cute finishing detail as well, and does not take much time.
That's a great idea. Is there any special needle you're using right now? Or are you just using just a regular?
I think I have a stretch needle on here.
Okay.
But yeah, just what I was using from before. So the only thing when you're pulling with both hands is you want to make sure you don't, pull the needle, because you can break it. So I want to pull the fabric. I don't want to pull the needle. Okay, so then we pull out the pins, and I clip a couple of threads here on the very back. It has extra threads because remember, we sewed the elastic casing, then we sewed the elastic casing shut. And so, we've started and stopped a few times. But so
that looks great.
Are the top of the pants. And I just think that little extra stitch adds a nice finish there. And we have little tag on the back. And let me back up here a little bit so you can.
Emily, that looks great.
The full detail of the
Oh yeah. How cute is that? Oh my goodness. And you finished in just this short period of time from beginning to end.
Hopefully she likes them.
Rose is going to love them. Are you kidding?
Yeah. I think she will. They're actually like super soft and cozy. So this is a good time of year for cozy pants. So yeah, there you go. Fun pants. And you can put the pockets on even if you don't have like these crazy knee patch things going on as well. But we've definitely got some color.
I'm reading the comments. I have more fun reading the comments while I'm watching you, because everyone's like, oh my gosh, this would look great with plaids. I can think of so many other ideas to use scraps. What a great way to repurpose some fabrics. Or maybe you have an old pair. You can cut those out and use that. I mean, this is such a great idea.
Yes. So you really, even if they were pre-made and you cut and just sewed it in a circle, which you really could, you could turn it inside out. It would not be, these aren't super tiny. They're not like this.
Oh my gosh.
So
everybody's saying so cute. Where'd you get your tags from, or did you make them?
I ordered them.
Can't say where from.
Well, yeah, I ordered them like special order. They're woven. They're let me see. I'm gonna switch my camera because I'm looking at one thing and talking to another. It's confusing to me.
Like, Where did Emily go?
Where are my eyes? I special ordered them years ago, and I do like them because it's actually like woven into the, it's not printed. It's in the weave of the.
Oh, that looks really cute too, by the way.
So, but I have not used this logo in years, so it might be time for a little bit of an update. And I've thought about it, and then I'm like, oh, I have 200 left, so.
Very cute. And if you really want to know, you can always message Emily or
Yes.
just do an internet search. You'll find something.
Yes.
Like Joanna wants a pair. I agree. Hey, Barb.
I know. So cozy.
What time? Well, Rose is probably at school right now. When she gets back, she's going to be like, whoa, Mom,
I
you're
know.
awesome.
I'll have to have her try these on. And then again, if you're interested, you can check back on Friday on my site, lifesosavory.com. And there will be pictures of all the kids, hopefully in sweatpants, and with all like different cuffing options and different pocket options and more sizes. Because this current pattern is about size 2 to 10. And sizing doesn't really mean anything, but approximately, age 2 to 10 kids. And, but I'm going to add up to like 16 so that I can, sew a pair for my son. So we'll be testing that this week and adding that larger size, and then hopefully getting a picture of all 3 of them together.
Hey, do you have any tips for cutting elastic, Emily?
Like just cut it?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, Sandra. Unless you were thinking, I don't know what you meant exactly, Sandra, but just cut it. Just use the scissors and just cut it.
I do just cut it with the scissors.
Oh, thanks, Dee. Nice to see you. You can see us live quite often.
Yes.
Emily pops in once a month. Emily has live shows on Wednesday. I have one every Wednesday at 1:30. She has one every Wednesday at 3 or 3:30.
3. Yep.
3. Eastern.
Yep.
Great. Glad you could make it, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, Shirley must have missed why you put the tag on the outside.
Oh,
so it's cool.
I put the tag on the outside because one, my kids do not like tags on the inside. So I could never put, these are like soft satin tags, they're a woven. And often I'll put tags so they can tell the back and the front. But like I said, on this one, it has big pockets. I'm pretty sure she can figure out. But leggings, I'll always put the tag on the outside so we can see the back or the front. And if I get a legging, then it ends up to be a Sharpie X on the inside of the back waistband. This is the back X. So
good idea. Okay, so hey, Wendy, that's a good idea. Would you ever double the fabric near the knees for kids to keep that area?
Yes, and I was going to, but I didn't have enough fabric. So again, with this a little bit of a scrap buster project, I was down to scraps, like strings, by the time I was finished with out. So yeah, so I was thinking when I was doing this that would be a great way to add reinforced knees as well. You could also put interfacing on the back of, fusible on the back of that if you wanted it to be more reinforced, but that would definitely be a good option. Yeah.
Great idea. Someone else had a question here that was a great idea. Well, there's always more than one way to skin the cat as well. And I think you actually mentioned a couple of these while you were sewing, is that when you put the waistband in, you could have run the cover stitch through there. Yeah. You could have done even the chain stitch from the cover stitch, a decorative stitch. Any of those things would have looked great.
Yeah. I just, when I use the cover stitch on a live show, it's not as reliable. So I use it all the time. And in fact, I used it on this project because I did put it right here with the top stitching. It just makes me nervous. I don't know. So I don't do it as much when I'm sewing live.
It's just the pressure, and it's because it's live, because something
too much pressure. Yeah, I know. I was able to do all those top stitching in the 5 minutes before we went live, but
and great idea. Applique, embroidery, so many ideas. So many
cute ideas.
And for those of you that are watching, I saw some people saying here, I'm late. How can I watch this again? Well, if you're on Facebook, share it to your page. That's the easiest way, if you share it to your page. If you're on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to Brother Sews or Brother Crafts. Number one, you'll be notified every time we go live. And also you can go back and binge watch. That's the best way. And you can go back and watch from the beginning. And even if you're watching the replay, Brother's social team always pops in here to see if you have questions or, things that you couldn't figure out. But Emily, you showed this. What a wonderful tutorial.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, hopefully people are inspired, and it's easy. I mean, I know it's easy to buy sweatpants, but it's also easy to make them. And these were just made with leftover fabric from another project that I made. So depending on the size of kid you're sewing for, it doesn't take a lot of fabric to make things. So,
and what a great idea. So I put Emily's website down below. You can see it there along with Brother, along with mine if you're looking for anything. And also if you look above, Brother loves when you share their projects. So #Brother Sews, #Brother Scan and Cut. You can't miss it. Maybe you'll be featured on one of their social posts, which is very cool. And sorry for the distraction. I don't know if you could hear. I put a new bird feeder up out here, and we got a foot of snow yesterday, so I put new bird feed out. And I saw Joanna say, "What kind of animals?" Yeah, there are 3 wild turkeys staring in my window, and the birds are flying all around them. I honestly think I live in a zoo, but it's full entertainment. They love your show, Emily.
Yeah, so exciting.
Are we changing times for Brother Sews? No, on Tuesdays, quite often it's at 2:00. So next week, Lorraine, on Tuesdays, it'll be at 2:00 with Joanne, but on Thursdays, it's always at noon. So I try to post a little bit early so though, too. So it's either noon or 2, usually. Everyone's saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. Make sure I didn't miss any last. Oh, Janice loves the tip about the back pants. I do, too.
Yeah, so it's good because I will have people say, "Oh, what's that tag for?" Or, so it's a good way to talk about what you're making if you want to do that. And and so far, none of my kids care if I put that tag on there. So
fantastic. So, well, this was an awesome show. I'll look forward to seeing your show tomorrow, by the way. And also on Friday to pop over to your blog so I can see the picture of all the kids. I'll include a photo of all the turkeys for you.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Emily, awesome show. I wish I could see Rose's face when she sees those pants today.
It's going to be fun. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.